America has spoken. A free and fair election has always been the aim to protect the republic and maintain democracy. Now, this one is going to be off the cuff. Sometimes I have a little bit of notes. I want to run this one simply off the top of my head because this is one of the issues that I believe is concerning and certainly should be followed through. Now, I did a video earlier about Trump and how the previous 7 days have been a whirlwind, and as I titled it, What a Difference a Week Makes, suggesting that only 7 days ago, the polls were talking about how close this damn election was, and we see what happened. Trump won by a landslide. America spoken. But I added that Trump was complaining about widespread election fraud, once again, similar to what he did in 2020. And I did give somewhat of a kudos to Kamala Harris for getting on TV within 24 hours, conceding to President Trump, stating she had already called the guy and personally congratulated him. Then Biden's on TV a few hours later doing the same thing, stating that he too had called Trump, personally congratulated him, assured him that it would be a smooth transition of power from the Biden administration to the second Trump administration, even inviting him to the White House, which is the actual tradition. Now, in that video, I asked, isn't it nice to have a smooth transition of power? One of the primary pushbacks is that with Kamala Harris's voting total, there's somehow this 20 million missing vote count or something of that nature. I'm not going to argue yay or nay on that. But here's what I want to say. With Trump complaining about election fraud in 2020, he also complained about it in the midterms in 2022 when he was promoting Dr. Oz for Senate in Pennsylvania. He was promoting that there was widespread election fraud in that state. Now, Dr. Oz came forward and said, I don't know why he's saying this. This is not true. But in 2024, the election we just had, once again, he was promoting widespread election fraud. Now, in regards to a smooth transition of power and maintaining the democracy, maintaining the republic, I believe the people should, regardless of the fact that you believe Kamala Harris, you may believe Kamala Harris and Biden sucked as an administration. We can debate that in another video. Fair enough. The public got rid of their asses. We got Trump now. But he should be required to show some solid evidence that all of these elections were stolen or that there was all this fraud taking place. Remember, he said he won the 2020 election by a landslide. Here's the issue I have with it personally, and a lot of Americans should have this issue as well. That 2020 election fraud, all of that happened under his watch. All of that happened. Biden was not president. What he is suggesting is that the Democrats stole the election while he was in charge of the nation. And many of the areas where the election was allegedly stolen were also controlled by Republicans. Many of those swing states like Georgia that Trump claimed were stolen from him in 2020, they had Republican administrations. So somehow the Democrats, while he was in control of everything, while Republicans were in control of many of those states, somehow the Democrats were savvy enough to take all of that from under him. Now that he is in power again with literally all of the mechanisms of government under his control, House, Senate, Supreme Court, many gubernatorial positions, he should be required to show some evidence of that. In my humble opinion, there's a lot of Americans, to some degree, including myself, that believe he was making a lot of that up. Now, keep in mind, now that he has won the 2024 election by a landslide, all of the claims of fraud disappeared. He's not complaining about fraud. Now, if you can complain about fraud leading up to an election, and then you win that election, that means it's possible you won by fraud. He's not saying any of that. This is very similar to how in 2020, he was complaining about election fraud in the state of North Carolina, because right up to the election, Biden was leading him in the state of North Carolina. Now, Trump ultimately won North Carolina. Once he won that state and received its electoral college votes, he never complained about fraud in that state again. Even the movie Dinesh D'Souza's 2000 Mules, they didn't say nothing about North Carolina, even though Trump's all over TV saying there's widespread fraud in that state, which makes me come back to my original opinion. If you are seeking a free and fair election and you are alleging fraud took place every damn where, once you become the nation's commander-in-chief, you should pursue those avenues. Let us know what you've done to at least either bring the fraudsters to justice or prohibit it from happening in the future. You don't just wipe the slate clean because you happen to win. That looks like you're not really looking to pursue a free and fair election. You're just trying to win. As long as you win, you don't give a damn if that's fraud in that state or not. You only care about fraud when you lose. Because once again, in the 2020 election, you had Republicans suing the state of Pennsylvania because they made some kind of changes to the election, suggesting that the pandemic is why they made the changes. Trump ended up losing Pennsylvania and said those changes were fraudulent. All of a sudden, the governor of Montana comes out and states, we made the exact same changes in our state that they made in Pennsylvania, but they're not suing us because Trump won here. All I'm saying is that while Trump is in power of all of these different areas of government, if he's going to suggest that there was all of this fraud leading up to his second election, show us the evidence. Show us some solid proof. Remember, he's not just saying it was fraud. He's saying he won by a landslide in 2020. Where's the evidence? It happened under your watch. It happened under your watch that somehow the Democrats were able to take a landslide victory from you. He should have to show evidence of that. Something more than, well, they did it and they hid all the evidence, so I can't prove anything anymore. And also, why all of the members of his former administration also say he lost that election. Because I like the fact that despite Kamala Harris and Biden getting their asses kicked, they didn't take that route. I mean, they could have done the same thing. Many folks, even myself, suggested that because they were so fearful of Trump, they might pull some type of stunt. You got folks even right now suggesting that, well, they may not certify the election. They don't look like they're taking that route. It does look like that both Kamala Harris and Biden are going to push for making sure Trump smoothly transitions into power. It does not look like they're taking this route. And by the way, so many Americans voted for Trump. He won by such a large margin that, yeah, you could cause civil unrest if you tried to prevent him from coming back to office. As Trump and many of his supporters stated, we're going to make it too big to rig. They damn sure did that. However, I want to get your take on this. What do you think? You think that Trump should be required to show evidence of all of this fraud that he's been complaining about, particularly evidence that he won by a landslide? Keep in mind, suspicion does not equate to fraud. 20 million votes are missing. That's suspicion. But that doesn't mean that the 20 million votes that are missing are somehow Democrats cheating. We're talking about evidence. We're not talking about feelings or emotions or I woke up and Democrats are ahead and I feel like something's wrong. Evidence. Evidence. It's been 4 years since that election took place. Evidence. Everything that the right has said so far, it looks suspicious. That didn't look right. Such as Ruby Freeman, they're passing around USB drives like vials of crack. Okay, that looks suspicious. That's not evidence of cheating. Polling places are closing their windows and boarding their offices. That looks suspicious. That's not evidence of cheating. Evidence. It's been 4 years since that election took place that Trump had complete control of the country. He has it now again. Should he be required to show evidence that that election was stolen from him and he won by a landslide? Because he's been stating that ever since he lost. And now he's stating that there was cheating in his 2024 election. Should he have to show evidence that his claims were accurate? Or is it okay to just let him say all of that and move on? Let your boy know in the comments. As always, feel free to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel.